Yo, what's good, guys? We are back at it again with another MLB The Show video for you guys, and today I'm going to be going over all of the possible outfielders I think you guys should be running going into the start of Season 2 if you're playing ranked, stuff like that. Going over all of these outfielders, tier listing them, letting you guys know what is the most viable options for ranked. Real quick, before we get into the meat and potatoes, I would urge you to like and subscribe if this does help you. We're going to be doing it all year. Trying to keep you guys up to date with the most meta cards in the game. So, first card we have here is Live Series Aaron Judge. I think he's probably A at this point. Really poor fielder. A lot of that has to do with the fact that he is a primary center fielder. So you're sticking him in a corner outfield spot. The contact left is really bad. The clutch isn't necessarily great, but if you're using them, this is why you're using them. These two numbers right here, 120 average power. Really good swing, not a poor defender like stats wise other than reaction, but he is really slow, so he's going to be a defensive liability, and you're not going to play him in center field, so he's actually going to lose 5 more reaction. The bat is great, and he'll probably get updated and be even better in the future, but as of right now I think he's a fine option, especially if you're on lower difficulties. Adam Dunn, one of a couple hitters that you're going to see on this tier list where really, they're a DH. You probably don't want to stick them in the outfield. You can get away with it this early on in the season because there's not that many do-it-all 5-tool outfielders. But you can see really poor. 61, 62, 41 speed. But you can see the hitting stats are absolutely ridiculous. Makes a lot of the good captain teams. So as a bat, he's fantastic. As an outfielder, maybe not. So maybe we drop him. Maybe I do a DH tier at the end of this, not too sure. Adolis, this card is just kind of an all-star demon card. This is basically a home run derby card. You're looking at 66, 65, 97 against both sides power-wise, and then decent clutch to kind of save it, but really good reaction and fielding and speed and whatnot, especially if you put him in a corner spot like right field, left field. So if you are an all-star player and you are never going to play past all-star, this Adolis would probably be awesome for you. But for anybody that has any aspirations of playing on a higher difficulty than that, he's probably not going to be very great. Doogie. Verdugo, I think I probably want to put him B. I'm pretty sure he can't hit one side of the ball. So yeah, 72, 94. 60 power against lefties, 79 power against righties. Not the greatest clutch in the world, but also not a bad fielder, but the speed kind of makes him a little bit worse than you know, what the other stats kind of let on. So I think I'm cool with that. Santander maybe sneaks into S tier. My gut reaction to him is top of A. But this is not your typical Santander. He's actually halfway decent on defense. 59 speed, 93 reaction, and he will have a diamond shield in right field, assuming you put some parallels on him. And then the hitting stats aren't bad. They're not amazing. They're not the greatest thing ever. But to get a switch hitter with that good of reaction in the outfield, maybe he sneaks in the S tier. I think we just kind of have to run through some other guys. So Babe Ruth, obviously S tier. Not the greatest fielder. At this point of the season, though, he's not a bad fielder at all for an outfielder. But really, you're using him for the bat. If you want to argue he should be a DH, but I would say he's more playable in the field than a guy like Judge. He's more playable in the field than a guy like Adam Dunn, for sure. Bernie, probably just A tier. Does a lot of stuff decent. Not really a center fielder. He's kind of slow. 104, 92, 73, 71. Does have a couple of good quirks here in dead red, first pitch, breaking ball. 101 clutch. Decent fielding, decent reaction. The speed's just really what lets him down. Not a true center fielder because of the speed. So you're going to have to put him in a corner, and then he's going to lose some reaction. So he's not really going to be a plus defensive outfielder, but he's not going to be the liability that some of these other guys are. Nemo, I think he's probably like top of A. His swing is incredible in game. You can see here 85, 81, 89, 86. 106 clutch kind of saves the low-ish contact numbers, and then not a poor fielder, assuming you run him in left field in his primary. So big fan of Nemo. I don't know if he's worth the price. I'm not sure what he is on the market at the moment, but if he's anything like Bryce, then probably not. This Bryce as an outfielder, probably stay away from him. Just not really all that. 82, 80, 77, 103 against righties is fantastic, but just very bad against lefties. The clutch is really good, but you see the fielding, right? He's 69 fielding, 70 reaction, 59 speed, and that is at first base. So you stick him in the outfield, he's going to be absolutely miserable. And I don't think he brings the bat that a guy like Judge does or a guy like Adam Dunn. So I'm good on him. Chris Morel, easy S tier. This new card, huge fan of this card. If you've ever used the silver in BR, you know his swing is absolute butter. Has breaking ball. That's about it for quirks. But 84, 90, 103, 107, 100 clutch. Decent fielding. The reaction's kind of the issue with him, and then really good speed. So really, it's about the versatility with him. He can play any outfield position. Second, third, shortstop. All he really can't play is catcher and first base. So huge fan of this card. Think he's an absolute stud. You can get away with the subpar reactions as long as you have good speed. And if you put some parallels on him, he's going to be just as good, if not better, than a guy like Mike Trout in center field. So not a defensive liability whatsoever, especially at this point of the season. Corbin Carroll, just really mid against lefties. You can see 84 contact against lefties, 52 power. So that's the real issue with this card. Other than that, it's a solid outfielder. It's not a bad card at all. 90 reaction, 99 speed. This is the best defensive right fielder in the game right now as far as I'm concerned. So I think he has an argument. Against lefties, it's going to be really rough for him. And since he's a captain card, assuming you're actually using his boost, you're not going to be able to pull him. So there's a world where he might have 2 to 3 at-bats against a lefty starting pitcher to where you cannot pull him. So I think that's kind of iffy, but in general, still a very good card. Definitely has a much better swing this year than he did last year. Then we come down to a guy like Dahl. He's very similar to like a Verdugo, where he's not quite as good on defense as Verdugo, but you can make the argument that he's a lot better against lefties than a guy like Verdugo is against lefties. So that's interesting. Obviously, he makes like certain teams, so you kind of have to take that into account also. But he's an absolute dog. He has a good swing. It's just cannot hit lefties at all. Carlson, very similar to Santander. The stats are worse. It's just kind of up to kind of how you like the swing. So 82, 90, 84, 78. I believe he has better contacts than Santander, worse power, worse fielder. So, you know, it's give and take with those two, but they are very similar cards. Rosario, I'm not sure. I'm going to need a stat check on this one. My initial reactions was he was one of the better Team Affinity guys. 90, 92, 65, 85. Not going to be a plus fielder. It is the Rosario after all. I think he's fine. He's very similar to a guy like Corbin Carroll, except Corbin Carroll is giving you 99 speed. He's giving you the defense. He's giving you the captain boost. So for that reason, I'd probably use Carroll over him, but they are kind of, he's in the pod, hitting stats wise. Tatis, absolutely gross defensively, but just doesn't really swing the bat super well. 57 contact left, 76 against righties, 66 power left, 75 against righties. Even on a day where he's getting a really good inside edge, not it. But defensively, he's crazy. Probably not to that Corbin Carroll level, but not a terrible card defensively. But a defensive outfielder, I'm good on that. I think he easily goes C tier and maybe even D tier. It just kind of depends on who else makes C here. Hampson will definitely be one of them. Again, kind of a noodle bat guy that has a lot of speed. There's a lot of these players kicking around at this point of the season. I would advise most people to probably not use them. 81, 96, 52, 56. Really good clutch and not terrible fielding, but also not like shut down like a guy like Corbin Carroll. He's whatever. He's also going to take a secondary penalty to his fielding and reaction. So Cornerstone Stanton, the hitting stats are just really mid. If you use them, it's because you really like his swing. 107, 75, 91, 115, 88. So he's not bad against righties. He's not great, but he's not bad against righties. Really, he absolutely mashes against lefties. But then you kind of get back to the Corbin Carroll argument where He's a captain card, and you can't pull him. You're stuck with him for 6 innings. So if he's going against a righty, it's probably not ideal. It's definitely livable, but again, he's more of like a DH. 67 fielding, 65 reaction, 63 speed. That's probably generous for a Yankees Stanton, but also you're going to have to play him in right field. So maybe I could see an argument for him bumping up to A tier because he is kind of similar to Judge. It just kind of depends on how well you get along with his swings. Speaking of swings, the new Elliot Ramos, I haven't used this card. I have no idea what his swing looks like. It's good that he's a primary left fielder because you will see not exactly the fastest with 78 speed, not exactly the greatest fielder in the world with 78 reaction. But he's definitely like presentable. 102 contact left, 81 against right, 106 power left, 70 power right with 112 clutch. So not a bad card. If his swing's really good, maybe you can make the argument for S tier. But I think he's just a really solid A tier card and really good for a free card. Dozier, probably top of B. He's just going to be really, really bad defensively and doesn't bring the bat that some of these other guys do. 103, 86, 81, 78, 93 clutch. Going to be really poor in the field. 74, gonna have 65 reaction no matter where you play him in the outfield because he's a first baseman by trade. He's fine. I think he's fine. Not really up to snuff with some of the true outfielders here. Doesn't really bring the bat that a lot of these guys that are defensive liabilities bring, and isn't the fielder that guys like Corbin Carroll is. Clint Frazier, Jackson Frazier, whatever you want to call him at this point. He's fine. 84, 76, 94, 88, 88 clutch, 80 fielding, not terrible reaction. I believe he is a center fielder, so that's a little bit of an L. Means he's going to take a reaction hit because you're not going to play him in center field. I think he's fine. Probably just B tier, though. I don't think he's up here with some of these other guys. Walshy, this is, again, similar to, like, Adolis, an all-star card. Card's gonna rake, always has a good swing, but you can see here, 50 contact left. That is not playable in Hall of Fame. Definitely not playable on Legend. This guy's kind of like Gary Sanchez from last season, where some people are going to do really good with him just because of the swing. But he is dated, and, you know, time's ticking on how long he's going to be good. 88 power left, 95 against righties, and then the clutch isn't very good either. So really no reason to use him, but if you want to and you're on All-Star, then you definitely could do it. Jarred Kelenic, I think he's kind of similar to Frazier, obviously a lefty, but primary center fielder that's not very fast, so a little bit of a defensive liability there. 78 contact left, 94 against righties, 70 left, 80 power against righties. So it's whatever, just kind of bleh for hitting stats. Really, his swing's always very good in game, so if you want to use him, that's probably the biggest argument for wanting to use him. But I'd probably steer clear. Jason Hayward, I almost want to put him in the Tatis tier because his bat is poverty. It's really bad. 75, 86, 57, 78. So he's not even that great against righties. His strongest side of the plate is 86, 78, which is about bang on average. So 90 clutch, and he's not really that crazy defensively because, yeah, all these numbers are nice and pretty, but he has 56 speed. He's not going to cover that much ground, and he's not really even that good of a defender for this point of the season. So I think I'm good on him. Not one of my favorites. Mr. Larpa here, Jose Ramirez. 95 contact left. That's towards the upper echelon at this point of the season. 62 against righties. So you'd probably only want to play him if he has an inside edge that day against righties. But if he does, he's an absolute dog because 85 power left, 82 against righties, 95 clutch. Not a terrible fielder. He'll have 72 reaction if you haven't put any parallels on him, and 63 speed. Obviously, can only play left field, but looks like an absolute stud. Definitely a very good option. He's probably just B tier, and then if you can get him on a day where his inside edge is against righties, easily A tier, maybe even an S tier outfield option at this point of the season. Juan Soto, basically in that Adam Dunn boat where just really bad defensively, not really somebody you're counting on to make every play in the outfield, but hitting wise, like it's hard to get somebody better than him. 98, 95, 73, 97, 115 clutch. That's like Mookie Betts numbers right there. And then not the worst in the field. Is a common fielder unless you put some parallels on him. But 66 reaction, you know, we've seen worse. Giancarlo, Judge, people like that. And then 47 speed. So really similar to a lot of the guys of the archetype. Way better as a DH, but if you have to play him in the field, not the absolute worst thing ever. This Griffey, just super dated. I will go over his stats. 62 contact against lefties. That's going to be really hard to use if you are on anything higher than All-Star. And then 83 contact right, 78 power left, 101 contact or power against righties with 91 clutch. Not the greatest fielder, and he's not super fast. So almost no reason to use this Griffey anymore. I know a lot of people were counting on using this card when the season flipped back over. I don't see why you would. I think I'll probably put him probably bottom of B tier. I think he's kind of similar to all these other cards. There's other Griffeys you could be using, like this one, who is a better hitter, but is just, you know, it's Reds Griffey. It's Fat Griffey. So kind of tough to go about, you know, relying on him to take up one of your outfield spots. More of like a DH. 80 contact left, 98 contact right, 90 power left, 100 power right. So already better stats against both sides than the hyper one. 82 clutch is a little bit lower, but not too much lower. 77 fielding, 72 reaction, and then 56 speed. So the speed's kind of what sinks him in the outfield to just being like a fine option. He might struggle lefty-lefty. The stats aren't the greatest, but he's definitely a better option to run than the other Griffey. And he's probably the best left-handed outfielder here. The way the quirks will play on him probably make him play better than like a Nemo or somebody like that. So he should still be a stud, but he's not on par with this 95 Griffey, who begrudgingly is kind of S tier at this point. This card's not super great. When you look at a 95 overall Griffey card, this is probably the best it'll ever look because it's hard, right? He's an outfielder. Outfielders are weighted heavily towards certain stats, so there's really no way for them to make a 95 Griffey super meta, super good. He's kind of a card where he needs to be like a 98 plus to really be Griffey. But this card's all right. 88 against lefties, 92 against righties, 115, 100. So you kind of like the inverse splits. It's going to help him out a little bit lefty-lefty. 87 clutch is a slight improvement over the other. And then the fielding stats look really good. But then you see the 70 speed. And he's just another corner outfielder or DH. At least this one's like playable in the corner outfield. But still not a center fielder. Not really somebody you want tracking down balls in center field. Live series Kyle Tucker might drop him to B tier. I'm going to have to look. 79, 81, 89, 94. The clutch is not very good on him. And then the fielding and the speed is absolutely atrocious. So I think he goes in the B tier. A lot of people really enjoy his swing. Those people would probably be better off to use him as their DH, though, because he is really bad in the field. Almost unplayable in the field. Late night, Lamont Wade, probably going to be similar to a guy like Kyle Tucker, except I don't think he hits lefties. This is a platoon bat. 93, 98, 125 clutch is cool, but even if it is a lefty up, that still sucks because you're still 125, 50, which is not really where you want to be. And he's absolutely miserable in the field because he's a primary first baseman. So I think this card might be our first D tier. He is a platoon bat off the bench. You know, as far as a pinch hitter goes with a runner on second base against a righty, maybe one of the best in the game, but not somebody I'm looking to use on a routine basis in Diamond Dynasty. Leody Taveras always has a really good swinging game. I have hit absolute nukes with his silver cards in the past just because of his swing and the fact that he is a switch hitter. Born at sea, you love to see that. I'm not sure if that's accurate. Showzone loves to put that for everybody. 82 contact left, 88 against righties, 68 power left, 74 power left, so or power right. So that is definitely lower than where you want to be. 77 clutch also hurts. The fact that that's lower than both of his contacts. But defensively, right? 87 reaction, 84 speed. That's almost as good as you're going to get this early in the season. If you want a defensive center fielder, he's also a switch hitter. Kind of helps make up for some of the subpar, hitting stats. Louis Bob. This card is solid in the B tier. And you're going to probably say, well, I like his hitting stats more than Aaron Judge. I like this, I like that. His swing's awful, man. If I had to pick out a card, if you ask me who has the worst swing in the game, in your opinion, I'm sure there's some worse ones that I just haven't used because they don't give those swings to cards because they know nobody would use them. The most common swing that I think is just absolutely terrible is Luis Robert. His gold card is miserable to use. I've said it before, he's my litmus test for how well I'm playing on a day. If I can hit with Luis Robert, I'm on fire. I'm king of the world. 110 left, 73 right, 86 left, 76 right, 90 clutch. Really good fielding, right? 95 fielding, 81 reaction, 85 speed. So if you put some parallels on him, this might be the best defensive center fielder in the game right now. But he's going to have to be because he's probably batting 8th or 9th. His swing is absolutely abysmal. Which sucks because I used to love his 42 series when that card was out. I don't know what they've done to his swing in recent years, but please save my boy. Maybe if he gets traded to a bigger market team, they'll put some respect on him and fix his swing because it is absolutely miserable. Marcell Ozuna, I think it's fair. Like if we've got Soto and all these other guys up there, we'll just rank him as if you're going to play him as a DH because this card is unplayable in the outfield. 42 speed, 40 reaction, 45 fielding. I would rather have Jordan, just have the big body and maybe you get a reach up animation or something. But hitting wise, right, this is why you're playing this card because he's more of a DH. 106, 88, 87, 106, 107 clutch. So absolute dog, has dead red, has breaking ball, has a good swing from what I've heard. Somehow I've avoided using him for the whole year. But you can also see, makes Dansby. A lot of people have Dansby. Makes Rafy. Makes Luis Castillo. Makes Nolan Arenado. So he makes all of like the meta captain teams. Absolute stud. This card's really good. Usually has a solid inside edge also. Mark Canha, I think he's probably like A tier. He's really bad against one side, but the clutch saves it if I remember right. 65, 116, 88, 99, 88 clutch. So the clutch kind of saves how bad his contact against lefties is. And obviously that is, a handedness advantage for him. So even if he is going against lefty, the stats aren't great, but he has the handedness advantage. So it offsets it a little bit. 74 fielding, 77 reaction, 60 speed. So not terrible, but he is a primary center fielder. You're not going to play him in center field, so he's going to lose 5 reaction. I think he's comparable to some of these other guys. Probably Stanton is his closest comparison in the A tier. Diego, I'm going to have to look at his reaction because I was playing him in the outfield at events, and oof. It was not very good. So reaction-wise, it's supposed to be 90 for me. That felt really fake when I was playing him in the right field. But I think he's fine. I think he's super solid, probably just bottom of like A tier. Can plug and play wherever you want him. If you want him playing shortstop for you, he can do that. If you want him playing catcher for you, he can do that. But as an outfielder, should be great, right? 85 reaction, kind of fast, absolute hose piece, and he hits tanks, and he has a really good swing. So I like him a lot. I think he's a great budget option, and I don't see, you can pick this card up and use him in Season 3, in Season 4 at the start of those seasons also. It's still going to be a very viable card. Matt Holliday, absolute stud with the bat, very similar to like a Stanton, where 90, 114, 86, 80, 101 clutch, and then 72 fielding, 75 reaction, 65 speed. So absolutely insane quirks. A lot of people always really like his swing, so I think he's really solid. Maybe even S tier at this point. I think he's probably S tier at this point. If you're getting to those higher difficulties like Hall of Fame and Legend, he's probably one of your better options for an outfielder at this point. Miggy Andujar in the outfield, not the biggest fan. He is a primary left fielder, so it is going to help him a little bit. 101, 89, 85, 70. The 70 power right's kind of tough. 107 clutch, 70 reaction, 41 speed. So the speed is a problem. when you have like 60, I can deal with it, right? When you have like the Aaron Judge speed, I can deal with it. When you have 42, like that's really bad. So I don't think he brings the bat that a guy like Juan Soto brings. So I don't think I can, bump him up a tier. Trout probably top of A tier, super valuable in the meta the way it is. You wish his contacts were kind of where they were at the start of the year, but he's still in a good spot at this point of the season. Won't be usable past this point of the season, but for where we're at right now, he's very good. 87, 78, 86 power left, 114 against righties. The clutch is what kills this card. 74 clutch is absolutely brutal. And then the reaction being 68 is not great. Basically, Chris Morel in the field, they're basically the exact same. So if you don't have Trout, maybe Morel. But Morel has better clutch, he has better contact, but Trout is Trout. And the swing is probably worth bumping him a tier in this current meta. Mookie, going to be a defensive liability in right. It's just the way it is. He's really short, so that kind of limits his range right there. But also 53 speed, so that's pretty rough. And his reaction's not good either. He's going to have 69 reaction if you put him in right. If you put him in left, definitely not playing this card in center field, but should be a decent fielder. And really, you're just using him for the bat. At that point, you're using him for the bat, the insane quirks, the awesome swing he has. Mookie is S tier. I think I'd prefer him at shortstop, but if you want to put him at outfield spot, he shouldn't be too terrible. Cassy, probably top of A. Should be comparable to like Matt Holliday, kind of. 108, 90, 90, 78, 100 clutch. And the fielding, really poor, right? 60 reaction, 68 speed. So Holliday's definitely got him beat in the field. If I had to pick between the two, I'd probably pick Holliday. But Cassy, not a terrible option. More of like a DH, but if you have to play him in the field, he'll do in a pinch. Rafy P, obviously, way better at first base, but the swing, the stats, 82, 83, 105, 104, 90 clutch, 62 reaction, 38 speed. I can't put him in A tier. I'll be honest. That was gassing it. Probably top of B. The bat's really good, and he'll hit a ton of tanks for you, but oh my, 38 speed in the outfield. Not really what you want to see. If you're running a full Arenado team and you're still wildcarding him, maybe. Otherwise, oof, miss me. I'm good on that. Acuna, this is an interesting one. I think he's probably in the S tier at this point. When you look at this card, 87, 81, 90, 80. So those don't sound the best, especially when you're comparing him to his live series card. But I think the contacts end up being higher. Let me just side by side them real quick. So the average contact on this one's 88.5. This one is 84. So barely a difference in the contact. The average power on this one's 74.5. The average power on this one's 85. So that is a 10, almost 11-point jump. And then the rookie also has better clutch. So honestly, this one's way better. The speed is a lot faster. The other one I think has 80 speed. This one has 92 before you put any parallels, and the reaction's way better on this. They tanked like vision, they tanked like discipline to kind of boost his overall by being able to put those into other categories. He is an absolute stud. And I'm a big fan of that. I need to check his quirks. I feel like they actually gave him different quirks. They did. Wow, that's crazy. So they're actually, yeah, I don't think Acuna was born in Slovenia. So I'm not sure what's going on with their website. But they actually have different quirks, which is interesting. I think that's the first time I've ever seen the show do that. I think this Acuna is still really good, but the other one's going to be miles better in the outfield. Defensively, this one is a primary left fielder, whereas the current live series one is a primary right fielder. So, maybe you consider that if you're playing one in left and one in right. But I think the rookie's just better overall. Maybe you can make the argument on like a really high difficulty that you would want the vision. But even then, this one's not that much better than the other one. So I think give me the rookie all day over the current one. Shohei in the outfield is absolutely miserable, but the bat's really good. I don't really like his swing. They redid his swing this year. But, statistically, absolute stud. 87, 110, 72 power left, 100 power right. 67 clutch is just really tough to use. And then on top of that, having bad reaction and a bad glove, it doesn't even matter like how fast he is. I think he's really down here. He's probably C tier. I think I'd rather use most of these other guys over him. There's a reason I'd never really play Shohei in the outfield. Teo, maybe this is who you platoon with Lamont Wade Jr. I'm not sure, but even then, I think I'd rather just full-time Teo at that point, because really, if you're using this card, it's because you like those slap swings. So you're looking for a primary left fielder with a slap swing. He's not terrible. The contact right's in a pretty bad spot, but the clutch is pretty decent. The speed's pretty decent. The reaction's pretty decent. Honestly, this card's solid. Nothing to write home about, but he is solid. Not a terrible option there. Timmy Lowe goes in the Garrett Hampson tier, basically the same card. Fast, more defensive focused contact outfielders, that kind of cheese on the base pass. You know, that's basically kind of the archetype for them. Next up, we got Tim Raines. I got to look at his defensive stats again and kind of so he's a primary left fielder. You know, his most value will probably be second base because that's where you can get away with having lower power guys at. But 113, 97, 52, 66, 98 clutch, 75 fielding, which is whatever, 80 reaction, 91 speed. So, if you want to argue he's one of the best defensive center field options right now, sure. He might be the best defensive left field option right now as a primary left fielder. And then at second base, he's probably one of the better guys. So it pains me. It absolutely pains me to put him in S tier when his average power is like a 60. But I think the defensive value is kind of worth it. He's a switch hitter and he's a legend, so he has quirks, which will kind of help the power situation a little bit. But I think just because of lack of solid center fielders, I think he's kind of up here. This judge, probably inseparable from the other one. This one has the perk of he's already a right fielder, so he's not going to lose 5 reactions. So this one will be better in the field. 61 speed, 62 reaction, 77 fielding. The arm is considerably worse, which is laughable because I don't know what they keep doing to the judge's arm. 85 contact left. I guess the overall had to get lowered somehow. 78 against righties, so lower against righties, I think, and higher against lefties than the live series judge. 111 power, 82 power, 100 clutch. So definitely not the power bat that the other one is, but more average contacts, and then kind of still has that judge swing, still has all the quirks, and the clutch is higher on this one, and he's a primary right fielder. So there's an argument to be made why you would use this one over the live series. For me, the live series just hits absolute tanks. A lot of times he has an inside edge, so that kind of offsets the lower contact numbers. And the live series will probably get updated pretty soon with how Judge has been hitting in real life. Tommy Edman, I think he's kind of in this just fast kind of cheeser type category with like Hampson and stuff. You can see 101 contact, 90 contact right. 73, which kind of differentiates him from the other ones, and then 55 power right, 90 clutch, 97 fielding, 95 reaction, 92 speed, and he's a switch hitter. So I think that puts him above the other ones. The fact he's a switch hitter and he's that good defensively. If you want to throw him in center field and bat him 9th in your lineup, I wouldn't blame you. It's just he's not a complete outfielder, which not a lot of people are at this point of the season. But I don't mind that card. He's not terrible. Live series Trey Turner probably goes in like the Hampson tier because that's what he is. I think his swing's a lot better than those guys. I think breaking balls very nice to have on him. 103, 99, 68, 57, 95 clutch. But really the reaction's really poor. Like I said, you can kind of get away with having lower reaction when you have a guy with 99 speed. That makes up for a lot. But I think this card's really slept on, really underrated. If you're new to the game, if you just need somebody, he's not awful in center field, but he's definitely not the chase card. In center field, not a huge fan of this card. But again, like there's not really a 99 Griffey kicking around right now, so there's not that 5-tool complete center fielder necessarily. 125 left, 93 right, 98 left. So he hits way better against lefties on this card, and he's better against righties, I believe. Also 65 power, 100 clutch, and 76 reaction. So he will only go down to 71 reaction if you play this card in center field. So this card in center field, kind of a stud. Really, again, I think he's probably better at second base, but if you want to play him in center field, I think he's up here. I think he's, honestly, if Tim Raines is in S tier, then Trey's definitely in S tier. I think he's a very solid option. Mancini, this card's pretty brutal on defense, if I'm not mistaken. First base is definitely his best position. 86, 96, 103, 91, 88 clutch, 66 fielding, 65 reaction, 42 speed. So that is like Kyle Tucker territory. I think I like Mancini a little more than Tucker, personally. But that being said, probably just drop him, just because when you get below 50 speed, like, it's really, really hard to justify using you in the outfield. Robles goes in this tier. Again, one of the best defensive center fielders in the game right now. 99 speed, 93 reaction, diamond fielding, decent arm strength. And not bad context, 95, 89, but 62 and 45 power respectively. Absolutely miserable with the bat. This is right-handed Kevin Kiermaier. If you are looking for that archetype of center fielder, this is your guy. For me, I'd rather have Trey Turner all day, but he is there if you just want a purely defensive-minded center fielder. This card, Yandy Diaz, not bad at all, honestly. This card shocked me. 116, 100, 104 against lefties, 54 right. So that's kind of the glaring problem with this card. But even then, 117 clutch, and not the worst defensively. 68, 76 reaction, 48 speed. That's not the slowest we've seen. But you can put him in left field, breaking ball, unfazed, bad ball, fighter, situational. And, you know, a lot of people always like his swing a lot. Probably not the greatest card in the world. They don't have his captains. Yeah, I guess he does miss Arenado by like 4 speed, huh? So that's kind of tough. But if you're on those higher difficulties, definitely better as a first baseman. Don't get it twisted. But if you're on those higher difficulties and you need somebody with that contact, maybe you think of him for left field. Probably would not be my first pick, but, you know. And then Jordan. I think I'm giving Jordan the best DH because I think Babe's like at least playable in the field. I think Jordan is still kind of my go-to DH. 103, 83. So the 83 against righties doesn't really matter because he's a lefty. So you have that handedness advantage unless you're on legend going up against, you know, some of the top end hits guys in the game right now. Don't really see that being a problem. And then 96, 110. He's live series, so he's usually playing up. Has pretty good quirks and makes a ton of very meta teams in the game right now. Really, the problem is the fielding. 36 speed is absolutely miserable. 30 reaction, absolutely miserable. But if you're using Jordan, it's as a DH, and he's still one of the better bats in the game. So that is our outfielders tier list. I think the S tier is pretty self-explanatory. A lot of somewhat expensive cards in this tier at this point. Acuna, I think, is the only free card. Technically, Matt Holliday's free, right? Technically. And Griffey's free, technically. But, you know, you kind of got to pay for that quality in the outfield at this point. And then A tier, we have some very solid guys also. So we'll copy this. It will be in the description if you do not want to rewatch the whole video and you want to go over and look through this yourself. Till next time, guys. Peace.